Hello everyone, this is Remlays from 40k Theories, and welcome to the August 2019 edition of the Patreon Q&A videos. As always, if you would like your questions answered, then click the link in the video description below and help support the channel by becoming a patron. Now, let's jump into the questions. Mike Murdoch asks, with Marneus Calgar showing that regular Marines can become Primaris Marines, is it possible if a Space Marine is upgraded to a Primaris, would it cure the problems in their gene seed like the Space Wolf's Curse of the Wolfen or the Blood Angel's Red Thirst? So, we know that Primaris gene seed is purer and more stable, even though Primaris Marines still suffer from the Red Thirst and the Curse of the Wolfen, albeit less often. I don't know if there's going to be any correlation between being upgraded to a Primaris and having reduced gene seed flaws, because as far as I'm aware the gene seed itself is still the same even though they've been upgraded with new organs, though I could be wrong in this regard. I think this is one of those cases where time will tell. We see that orcs like looting mostly from the Imperium, but are there any accounts of them looting from other races like the Tau or Eldari? I haven't seen any documented cases personally, but that's not to say it doesn't happen. I think orcs will loot pretty much anything they come across. Chief Surgeon asks, do Tyranid hive fleets engage in devouring Necron tomb worlds, or do they avoid them entirely? This is something that has been contradicted multiple times from multiple different sources. Some codices say that they actively avoid them, where there's images of them actively congregating around them. You also have books like, say, Devourer, where a hive fleet is assaulting a tomb world. So I think it's one of those cases that if the tomb world has a high amount of biomatter, they will invade regardless. But if there's nothing for them to gain, I think they will choose to avoid them. Can Tyranids gain a new strain of bioform from eating Necrodermis or Blackstone? I'm not sure about developing a new strain, but I think they can gain enhancements to their biology, things like their skeletal structure, etc., by consuming this material. Nico Suave asks, what do you think is the reason that Talos' gene seed was so much better than average Nightlord gene seed? Was it actually better? Was it more pure? I don't know, I still haven't read the last book in the Nightlord series to confirm, but I suppose any purities will be due to the fact that he used original Legion stock from the days of the Great Crusade, so that's probably why. If the Blood Ravens have Primaris Marines, they do, does that mean Khorne knows whose gene seed they are? Potentially yes, we don't know exactly for certain how Khorne is able to make Primaris for certain chapters. I did a video on it a long time ago. It is implied from a recent issue of White Dwarf that Khorne does know the source of their gene seed, because there's a short story where the Blood Ravens get their Primaris Marines and they go, hey, that must mean they know who our Primarch is. So, knowing Khorne, I think he does actually know, but at the same time we don't know for certain, as stupid as that sounds. Ghost Reaper asks, are you still doing content for Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar? If a decent theory video comes up for them, I will do it in the future. Voice of the Emperor asks, what time period in ancient humanity's history do you think marked the birth of Tzeentch? So we know the order of the Chaos Gods was Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh. We know that the first three all came to full consciousness by the end of Terra's Middle Ages. So if Nurgle's birth caused the Black Death, which was the 1300s, that would suggest that Tzeentch's birth was earlier. Khorne would probably be around 10th, maybe 11th century? Something like that, considering the time frame. So I don't know about any specific periods that caused it or were influenced by it, but it would have taken place around that particular period of time. Could you possibly do a video on Drak'Nien? At some point, yes. Brent Feast asks, with Index Astartes trying to imply that Blood Ravens are descended from the Dark Angels, combined with them deliberately concealing their past, is it possible that they could be descended from the Fallen? I think that one's reaching just a little bit. I mean, I suppose it's not impossible, but at the same time I find it extremely unlikely. I mean, yes, we know that some Fallen did try to redeem for their crimes, but at the same time, I don't know, I'm gonna suggest no in this one. That guy asks, with the news of Eisenhorn's big debut on the small screen, which character from the book do you want to see the most, and played by which actor or actress? Honestly, I've actually not got a ideal casting situation in my head about the cast of Eisenhorn, so I can't really answer that particular question. That being said, however, I would probably prefer to see some lesser known actors, albeit good ones, because that way, you don't really want to have a situation like with Game of Thrones and The Terror where literally the same actors are in fucking everything. You don't really want that. But that being said, seeing Sean Bean and Eisenhorn would be pretty cool. Adilzia asks, what if there were people specifically bred and embedded with spell engrams that would make them a conduit, beacon and catalyst for the Astronomicon, making them an entry point in the space of reality they take up? Wouldn't a Guardsman army and a Space Marine chapter with people like that be amazing? And wouldn't it also kind of explain as to how the Emperor always ends up inside children, mainly little girls, in random places across the Imperium, even when the Astronomicon is slightly blocked off, at least temporarily? I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to insinuate here about the Emperor. In regards to how the Emperor is able to project himself when the Astronomicon is blocked off, that's just due to how powerful the Emperor is. At this point, he's effectively a god, so that's not going to be an issue for him. As for the people bred with spell engrams, to be honest, I think, as far as I'm aware, they just take random psychers on the black ships and say, you're too weak to be trained into a Primaris psyker, or to go into a Space Marine chapter, you're being fed into the throne. So I don't think there's anything specific in that regard, sorry. Can Magnus and Ahriman be redeemed even now? Magnus, no. Ahriman, possibly. With Magnus, I'm going to say no because, at this point, he's a demon. He is a warp entity, he belongs to Tzeentch, he is a part of Tzeentch. And at this point, I think it's too far gone for him. Ahriman, however, there is a potential possibility. But at the same time, it's unlikely because he's so far consumed by his own arrogance that it's not really likely that he's going to be able to redeem himself. Zero Hits asks, if there was a magic god-killing bullet that could remove one of the current gods in the warp, which one would you destroy, and why? Is this just to kill a god or to remove it from the lore completely? Because if you're just gonna kill a god, the ramifications that would be extremely bad, potentially. Let's kill the Tau god, just, for the hell of it, kill the Tau god, fuck it. The god of the greater good, kill him, fuck it. Brandon A asks, how could Diablo from Diablo and Trigon from DC stack up in the warp compared to other gods and demons? I don't know enough about those two characters to try and answer that, sorry. Can multiple Imperial factions share a world? Yes. Necromunda, for example, has not only the Imperial Guard regiments of the Necromundan Spiders, even though they're mostly shipped off-world, there are still some working, in the upper spires. But you've also got a contingent of Imperial Fists. You've also got a convent of the Adeptus Sororitas in one of the lesser hives. And I think there is effectively a Adeptus Mechanicus Chinatown, essentially on one hive, so yes, you can have multiple factions exist on the same world. Austin Horner asks, who is a worse father, Angron or the Emperor? The Emperor. At least with Angron you can say that, his bad temper and that is caused by, the butcher's nails taking up half of his brain and spinal column. What's the Emperor's excuse? He's just a shit dad. And finally, Kenneth asks, does the Farsight Enclave recruit other species like the Tau Empire? I think they do, but as far as I'm aware, they only use the Kroot, as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong though, I don't really know enough about the Farsight Enclaves to explain in greater detail, but as far as I'm aware, they use the Kroot, but I don't know about humans, Vespid, Demiurge or any other races, sorry. And that concludes this episode of the Patreon Q&A sessions. As always, if you would like your questions answered, then click the link in the video description below and support the channel by becoming a patron. Until next time, this has been Remlace from 40k Theories, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye!